All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating case study. It's what's basically a brutally honest evaluation of a fraternity at one of the most intense, academically focused universities in America. It's a great question, right? We all have this kind of movie-like image of what a fraternity is supposed to be. But what happens when you drop that idea into the high-pressure cooker of a place like Johns Hopkins? Well, let's dive in and find out. Okay, so here's the plan. We're going to start with the whole idea of a fraternity at Hopkins in the first place. Then we'll look at its alumni network, its social life, and then we're going to decode some pretty surprising scores. We'll wrap it all up with a final verdict on who this kind of fraternity is actually for. First things first. To even begin to understand this fraternity, you really have to get a feel for the university itself. I mean, the two they're completely intertwined. Okay, so this really gets to the core of it. When you think frat, you probably think of a big state school, right? Where Greek life is the social scene. But Hopkins, that's a whole different animal. It is academics first, through and through. It's packed with future doctors, engineers, the whole nine yards. So the social life is way more fragmented, and Greek life just isn't the main event. And that one fact changes absolutely everything. And here's the really interesting part. This chapter isn't some new kid on the block trying to fit in. No way. It was founded way back in 1877. That gives it a continuous history on campus of almost 150 years. So we're not just talking about a student club. This is a historic institution that's managed to survive by adapting, as Hopkins itself transformed into the global academic powerhouse it is today. All right, let's get to what is, for a lot of people, the main event, the alumni network. I mean, with a 150-year history at a school like this, what does that actually get you in the real world? Yeah, I mean, this is the real million-dollar question, isn't it? For anyone thinking about joining. Are we talking about connections that'll actually help you out? Or is it just, a fancy list of names in a database? So, the evaluation gives it a 65 out of 100 for alumni value. It's a solid B, not an A+. So what does that actually mean? And what's keeping it from being, say, a 90 or 100? And this is where we see that trade-off we're talking about. Look, this is not some huge, sprawling old boys network that can get you a job just about anywhere. It's much more like a laser beam. It's incredibly powerful, but only if you're aiming it at the right target. The source shows that if you're going into medicine, law, or public policy, these connections are absolutely top tier. But outside of those fields, the reach is pretty limited. It is a classic case of quality over quantity, for sure. Okay, so with this super professional focus, how does that even translate to the social scene? Because I'm willing to bet when you hear the word frat, you're picturing something very, very different from what this chapter is actually offering. Yeah, and this right here just lays it all out. What you won't get is that stereotypical movie frat experience. Forget the endless tailgates or packed basement parties every single weekend. So what do you get? Think more strategic, higher quality events. Invite-only gatherings, really well-planned formals. The vibe is much closer to a gentleman's club than a party house, which, let's be honest, fits the Hopkins culture perfectly. And wow, the numbers really drive this point home. It gets a 37 out of 100 for what you'd call a stereotypical frat lifestyle. Just 37. I mean, that number tells you almost everything you need to know. If you want a nonstop party, this ain't it. The source itself puts it perfectly, actually. It's a fraternity for guys who want a smart social circle, not a constant party schedule. It's all about your social life being a tool for your ambition, not something that gets in the way of it. Big difference. All right, let's really dig into the numbers now, because this evaluation uses some pretty unconventional metrics to try and paint the full picture of what's going on here. So when you put these key scores side by side, a really clear story starts to take shape. You've got the high career value at 65, the super low party lifestyle at 37, and then right there in the middle, you have this hookup score at a 44. And that really reflects that intense Hopkins vibe, right? Where just having Greek letters on your shirt doesn't automatically do anything for you. It's more about your own personality, your own charisma. Okay, now we get to probably the most unusual metric in this whole review, the homoerotic level. And let's be super clear here. This has nothing to do with sexuality. It's a scale that the source created to measure platonic closeness. Basically, it's a way to quantify the level of physical and emotional comfort between brothers. Think of it as a bromanceometer, if you will. Okay, so to give you some context, here's what that scale looks like. Level 4 is what the source calls the bromance tier. Guys cooking together, hitting the gym, actually offering each other emotional support. Level 5 gets into more casual closeness, like being comfortable walking around in a towel or just crashing in each other's rooms. This chapter gets a 4.5, so it's smack dab in the middle of that sweet spot between deep friendship and comfortable intimacy. So what does a 4.5 actually mean? It means the Brotherhood here is legit. These guys are actually friends. There's real support, a real level of comfort with each other. But, and this is the key part, it's all very private and image conscious. This is about real friendship, behind closed doors, not putting on some kind of show for everyone else. So, when you crunch all the numbers and add everything up, the evaluation lands on a final score of 54 out of 100. So, a passing grade, but just barely. Not exactly acing the test. It's a number that perfectly captures a fraternity that is totally defined by its trade-offs. So, at the end of the day, it all comes down to this trade-off right here. On the pro side, you've got this amazing heritage, that powerful, specialized network, and a brotherhood that's super loyal and low drama. But the cons are just the other side of that same coin. You're going to have low visibility on campus, a pretty tame social calendar, and that alumni network is, well, it's narrow. Which brings us to the big final question. Given all of these very specific trade-offs, who is this place actually for? And the source gives us a really, really clear profile of that ideal person. First, you've got the future surgeon, who values discretion and those key med school connections. Then there's the future attorney, who's looking for a professional network that looks like the one they want to have after they graduate. And finally, the future policymaker. You see the pattern here, right? The common thread isn't just a major, it's a mindset. It's for people who want a brotherhood that's going to help them get where they're going, not slow them down. And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. For this fraternity, or really for anyone looking for their community, when you're looking for your people, is having a super narrow focus like this a huge strength, or is it actually a weakness? I think the answer to that, just like this fraternity, really depends on what you're looking for in the first place.